everybody, what day is it? It's finally Friday, and I am sweating like a crazy person because it is really freaking hot here in Los Angeles. I wish the gods would come down and send me air conditioning. Oh, but it's not happening. So in the meanwhile, I'm just going to sweat it out. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. And don't forget to subscribe because I put out videos 5 days a week. And since it's Friday and there's an F in Friday, I'm on Facebook. Try to keep it nice and simple. So if you ask me a question using the hashtag KatiFAQ, then I've scanned through them. I've already answered many of your questions, so you might want to hop on and see if I already answered yours. And thank you all so much for voting for me for the Streamies. I know we have 2 more days left to cast our votes, so make sure you get online at the Streamies and cast your vote. I'm under Science and Education. That is it's a channel, and then Science and Education is the topic or the way they've lumped them together. So please vote, okay? Now, question number 1. Hi, Kati. I was sexually abused in my past, and I currently have an eating disorder. Is it possible for the two to be linked without me consciously realizing it? I know people use it as a coping tool to deal with flashbacks, etc., but I've never thought of my eating disorder being related. Just curious. Thanks. And I wanted to answer this question because I know many of us have had abuse in the past and also have eating disorders. Now, obviously, everyone's case is different. I've had patients of mine who were sexually abused and they started using their eating disorder as a way to kind of make themselves like unattractive. Like one of my clients had said that the person who abused her, you know, loved her curves or something. So she restricted and tried to lose weight so she no longer had those curves so that she would never be abused again. And so it can be used in a tool that way. And I've found that with some of my clients that's common. So if that's something you're struggling with, that's very common. As far as what this person is talking about is using it as a coping tool, it can also be used just to deal with the fact that you've been traumatized. It doesn't have to be to cope with flashbacks, but it could be something that you do for that. But I find that our eating disorders are mostly just used as a way to cope with something that we don't know how to manage or deal with in any other way. And sometimes when everything around us is out of control, like maybe we've told a parent and they don't believe we're being abused, or the abuse just keeps happening and we don't know how to protect ourselves because we're a young child. Oftentimes, the only thing we can control in those situations are ourselves. So some of my patients are really, really cleanly and they're almost OCD-like in the way that they do things around the house. We control how we eat and exercise and dress and whatever. That's all we can do, right? So instead of trying to control things we can't, we control things we can. And that's kind of where they come out of. I hope that helps explain. If you need more information, let me know. Okay? Question number 2. Hey, Kati, in recovery, how can you tell your healthy voice from your eating disorder voice? Sometimes I find myself refusing bad foods, and I'm not sure if it's because I actually don't want them or my ED voice is telling me that I can't have them. Likewise, a binge will often start with what I think is a healthy voice, reasoning that I want the food and that I shouldn't deny myself. How can I tell the thought whether the thought comes from a healthy or an unhealthy place? Thank you for everything you do. You really helped me so much. So I thought this was great because I talk a lot about talking back to negative voices, right? Using our healthy voice and, you know, getting rid of that negative voice, whether it be eating disorder voice, a self-harm voice, a depression voice, anxiety voice, whatever it is, that kind of negative energy in our brain. I talk about talking back to it. Now, how do we decipher? How do we pull them apart? And it can be really hard at the beginning. Now, when it comes to eating, and this person's specific question is checking in with yourself. I cannot say it enough times. The Intuitive Eating Workbook by Evelyn Rush, I think is how you say her last name, Rush. And, oh, what's the other lady's name? Is it Elise? Oh, my brain. It's Friday, right? It's right there on the tip of my brain. But anyway, the Intuitive Eating Workbook is amazing. Pick it up. And what they talk about in there, as well as something that I kind of add in with my patients, is the thing that you can't really, it's trick proof, is checking in with your hunger and fullness using the rating scale with the Intuitive Eating Workbook. Now, okay, so that might be a little hard and you're like, wow, Kati, that's not foolproof at all. You're lying to me. But the second thing you need to do simultaneously is then check in with your emotion level. Often I find when our emotions are high, we cannot trust That voice that we're hearing, we can't trust it. It's an unhealthy voice. When our emotions get really riled up, that we know from past experience, many of you have told me, like when we get really stressed out or really anxious or things are like changing, that's when our urges are the worst. So checking in with your emotion level as well as your hunger fullness will help decipher. And also, it helps some of my clients just to think, and you can pick anybody, like any healthy eater in your life. Sometimes I'll just tell them if they don't know someone in their life, I'll say, well, just think, what would Katie do? Would she think that this is okay? Would Katie think that that's a normal amount to eat? And if you feel a binge coming on, maybe you step away. It just kind of helps you put it in perspective and just check in, almost like what I call like reality testing. Find someone who you trust and and you can use them to check in. Okay, I hope that helps. If any of you have tips and tricks about this, let us know below. Okay, question number 3, my final question. Hey, Katie, I hope you're having a great day. I have a question for you. As you know, I struggle with self-harm and other mental health issues and am now recovered in medical school. Last night, my roommate, who is also a med student, came home and started telling me about a teenage patient that she had in her pediatric clinic who had nasty scars and cuts all over her arms from cutting herself, and how it made her really uncomfortable to look at, discuss, and document in her chart. I really wanted to open up about my own experience, but for some reason, I just couldn't. Instead, I discussed the issue in terms of patients that I've seen and how I would handle it, in an attempt to get her to be less judgmental. Do you think that in order to help end the stigma, it is necessary to be open about our personal experiences, or is it enough to be aware and try to help others be more sensitive without disclosing? Obviously, it's inappropriate to share personal experiences with my patients, but I'm wondering about friends and colleagues. Negative stigma and lack of understanding clearly exists, so it's not simply sharing personal and professional self-preservation, or are we actually doing harm and perpetuating the stigma by acting ashamed or afraid of being judged? I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Thanks. I thought this was really great because many of you will talk to me and message me about, well, I maybe want to tell my friend, but I'm afraid to tell my friend, or I've told my friend and she didn't react the way I wanted to, or we don't know, right? And it's really scary to open ourselves up to people and to actually talk about what we're struggling with. Now, in this case, from this person, I think that you did the right thing. Sometimes if we're not that, I don't know how close you are with your roommate, but if you're not that close with someone, there's no reason that you have to disclose. By being, I guess the way you use, like worrying about the stigma yourself and almost being kind of embarrassed or not sure and not wanting them to know because you don't know what they'll think about you, that's fair, right? Yes, it's helpful for us to talk about our struggles and to be more verbal and vocal about what's going on and why it happens. But I think what you did is perfect. If we're not that close to that person and we don't want to share our personal experience, I think talking about, patients you've seen, you could even make up a story about, I had this patient and share from your own experience with it, just to try to help them to better understand. Just talking about it, period, helps with the stigma. It's not that we all have to share all of our nitty-gritty secrets and we have to be so open about it. Although I think the more we talk about it, the better. But again, it needs to be done in a safe environment, because I don't want any of you to prepare yourself and work to share something so personal and so personal and private, and then have it blow up in your face. So when people aren't that close to us, I think it can be scary. And I prefer people to not, have a bad experience. So I think what you did is really great. And if any of you have experience with this and you have your own opinion about it, let me know below. Okay. Now the journal topic today. Thanks, Kaylin. Thanks for sending that to me on Facebook. It was amazing. So there's a little thought that she has. She says, hey, Katie, it's a little long, but I love analogies. Think back to when you were small and learning to ride a bike. I remember that was very fun. My dad taught me. You fell, right? But you didn't give up. It felt good when you got back and started riding it. That's true. Now think about how good it would feel for you to get back on your feet and start fighting the daily battles that you have. You're going to fall, but you don't have to give up. And it felt good to ride a bike, and it's going to feel amazing when you win the fight that you're in. I thought this was great because when we were small, the only worries that we had are small things like learning how to ride a bike. So what makes me feel good? What makes me feel like what makes me feel like I can keep battling against my self-harm or eating disorder or whatever it is? And I thought that was a really great thing to think about. Getting back up, getting back in there. I remember I was at a camp when I was younger, and it was like, I think it was a Christian camp or something. And I remember one of the camp counselors was like, I don't understand in life when we fall down, we get right back up. Like we fall down and we skin our knee and we get back up. We don't lay there. But emotionally, we can lay down. Once we fall, we lay forever. So get back up. and find out what makes you happy. What will you be excited to win the fight and to do? And I think that's a great analogy. So thanks, Kaylin. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I will see you on Monday, and on Tuesday I'll be on Tumblr, so ask your questions there. Okay? Bye!